Hi, welcome back. Earlier on, we looked at the way in which joints are found in the human skeleton. Joints are the places where the bones meet. But the bones themselves are rather static. They cannot move. They need something to be able to move them. And so that is where our muscles come in. The muscles are going to be attached to the bone and they're going to bring about movement. Now, the typical example that's used in a lot of textbooks, and it's quite easy to see why it's used, is because it's right out here in front of you, is of course your forearm. The bones of your forearm are your humerus and your radius on the thumb side and your ulna on the side of the elbow. Now, when you lift your arm, you've got a series of muscles that come into play to move the bones. We need to be very careful that we don't say almost in an everyday fashion, oh, my bones move. The bones themselves can't move. The muscles move your bones. So you have a set of muscles that is attached from the top of your arm down to the lower arm, and that's your biceps. And when your biceps contracts, it pulls your arm up. The problem with muscles, though, is they can only contract and then something has to pull them into a relaxed position. So the biceps contracts and pulls your arm up. The biceps can now do nothing about pulling your arm, or in order to make your arm lower again. The biceps is contracted. Your triceps around the back of your arm has to now contract to pull your arm downwards. Once the triceps has contracted, in order to pull your arm up again, you're going to have to contract the biceps. And so we see that the muscles that are attached to the bones in the body work in pairs. The ability of the muscles to contract and relax goes right down to cellular level. The tissue itself at cellular level has fibrils and filaments that slide over each other. It takes energy for the filaments to slide towards each other and shorten or contract the muscle, but it takes no energy for those filaments to slide apart again, and they're pulled apart by the action of another muscle. And so we say that muscles work in antagonistic pairs. If you are an antagonist, it means you fight with somebody or you have an argument with somebody. So antagonistic muscles work against each other. The biceps contracts to pull your arm up, the triceps contracts to pull your arm down. They work in opposite directions. We have different kinds of muscles throughout your body. The kind that you're most familiar with, because it brings about movement of your body right in front of your eyes, and you are usually in control of those muscles, are your skeletal muscles. These are the muscles like your biceps and your triceps that we've been talking about that are attached to bones all over your body and bring about voluntary movement. When I lift up the pen, when I nod my head, all of those movements are voluntary movements, and they're brought about by the skeletal muscles. But you've got very, very important muscles that you don't have to think about for them to work, and those are your smooth or involuntary muscles. Every single one of your arteries and veins has a muscle layer, a very, very thin muscle layer that enables the blood vessel to contract, and then those are circular muscles, and longitudinal muscles help them to relax. And so if you look at a blood vessel, if you look at the muscles that are involved in pushing your food down your esophagus into your stomach, help your stomach to churn the food, mix the food up, and then pass the food along the small intestine for further digestion. Those are all smooth muscles or involuntary muscles. They are under control of the autonomic nervous system. Remember that we did that just a few weeks ago when we said that there's a part of your nervous system that functions that you don't automatically control. It works for you. You have no control over it. You, once you've swallowed the food, have no control over your digestive system in terms of how the muscles push the food along your digestive system. All of that is under the control of the autonomic nervous system, and the autonomic nervous system stimulates the muscles in your digestive system to push the food along by the process of peristalsis. Other smooth muscles that we've already spoken about a couple of weeks ago as well are the muscles that are found around the walls of the uterus. So here we've got our picture of the uterus, the very thick muscular wall that we kept talking about. Those muscles are needed in order to give birth to the baby, to be able to squeeze and push the baby out of the cervix and out of the vagina. Those are smooth muscles. A third kind of muscle that we find in the body is cardiac muscle, which is also involuntary, and the cardiac muscle forms the whole body of your heart, and we're very soon going to be looking at the circulatory system. I'll see you after the break.